As is normal with film and game development, there's always some deleted content which never makes the cut, but today I will be bringing you all the darkest and mysterious Five Nights at Freddy's removed content, starting with the original Five Nights at Freddy's, covering all the releases right through to the most recent ruin. And believe me, you are not going to want to miss any part of this video, the original Five Nights at Freddy's. Before the game even released, there were some inconsistencies from the trailer to the original game, where we see Bonnie rushing down a hallway, not Foxy. These were obviously never present in the full release. The stay stage screen, the infamous unused image screen of Freddy, Bonnie and Chica staring at the security camera all together from the show stage. This was only ever seen in the game's video trailer and was never ever featured in the final release of the game, despite people claiming to have actually seen it on very rare occasions, but there is no solid evidence of this, as this image is not even found in Click Team's engine, but it could be down to the Mandela effect. Freddy's mobile screen. From the first release of the old mobile port, upon starting the game, the pre-menu screen will show the image of Freddy's game cover render. It was completely removed though when Click Team released a remastered patch for the game. Lives. In the beta version, there was a life meter that would presumably limit the player's time of playing before they received a game over screen. However, this mechanic was not used in the final version of the game. Footage can be found on Scott's channel. There was also a lives text image, but strangely enough, it was not seen in the early gameplay footage, with the stick figure being referred to as Tiny Man. There was also a beta monitor map. The monitor's early design shows different buttons for the camera. The camera icons were also small circles with cones pointing in the direction they were facing. These cones may have indicated the camera's field of vision. They would turn green and become slightly larger when selected. Also, some cameras were placed in slightly different locations. Early endoskeleton and scrapped animatronics. In the game's Steam greenlight and trailer, Freddy Fazbear and Bonnie's exoskeleton look very different to the final build. The endoskeleton also included rectangular nostrils, but these were entirely absent in the game's final cut. Not to mention, during production, when brainstorming for the fourth character, Scott first came up with the wolf animatronic. After rejecting this idea, he thought up about having a beaver animatronic, but due to bearing too much reminiscence to Mr. Chipper from Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., the beaver animatronic ended up being replaced by Foxy. Scott did eventually have his wolf animatronic though in Security Breach, so one could indeed argue that Roxy was first thought up during the original Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's 2. This one has some great cut content as well as a completely unused mechanic. Mike. There's a strange pixelated image in the game files depicting part of a skull's face. The upper teeth are visible with a black stream running down the only visible eye. The unusual image is referred to as Mike in the game files and bears the same size as the other markers used for animatronics movements, implying that Mike was originally planned to be an enemy or a mere hallucination. Additionally, there's a piece of text that says lives and a pixel stick figure. Seeing as the lives mechanic was scrapped as early as the first game, these are likely leftovers. Pre-release cut content, Mangle with a hook. In the game's third teaser, Mangle is shown to have a hook similar to Foxy, although in-game Mangle does not have a hook and instead possesses both hands. Original Foxy. Again, in the third teaser, the original Foxy is also seen, with glossy black eyes and glowing white pupils. However, Foxy is replaced by his previous incarnation, Withered Foxy, opposed to his minor minigame appearances, completely cut from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Flashlight text. From the trailer and a series of screenshots prior to the game's release, the flashlight text for the flashlight battery meter is absent. Toxicity meter. Searching through the game's files, you can find a texture labelled as toxic. This was later confirmed to be a way to prevent the player from keeping the Freddy Fazbear head equipped for too long. This was an entirely brand new mechanic for the game, but was later cut. This could have changed the gameplay dramatically for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Toy Chica in the office. There is a texture of Toy Chica from the game files staring at the player with glossy black eyes and missing her beak and eyelids. Her unused texture would have been acting similar to the Toy Bonnie while using the Freddy Fazbear head upon seeing her from the A event. There's also an unused texture of the puppet's full body attached to strings if you look in the gun to Withered Freddy, Withered Bonnie, Withered Chica and Toy Freddy. Endo 02 and Shadow Freddy leaving after scene. There's an unused sound and mechanic after you see Endo 2 in both the left event and the prize corner, and Shadow Freddy in the parts and service. They go away after half a second with 3 seconds of static after. Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Probably the least amount of cut content comes from this game. Springtrap's mobile screen. Upon initial release of the mouth hang open while staring down. The image was ultimately removed when Click Team released a full remastered update patch for the game. We also have the lives left over, which were present in the first, second and now the third game, where they have the lives text and a missing lives mechanic. For some reason it was still present during this release. The puppet. Found in the game files are the leftovers of the puppet sprites from the second game, including its hallucination renders and the unused close-up image. The sprites can also be found in the Troll Games files. We also see an unused piece of text saying seal vent, which would have been for a button that was likely going to be used to seal the vents. In the game, it was replaced with the double-clicking the vent camera. And this one I find really interesting. There's a text texture for the game's scrapped 7th night, which comes up later on in the video. There's also an alternate image for the second night text when starting a new game, where it's coloured green like the first night's text. Pre-release cut content, unfinished monitor map. In the 2 Steam screenshots before the game's release, the monitor map is actually featured as being unimplemented with event paths along with the play audio and map toggle button. However, when the audio button is used in the final game, a set of dots appear on the screen during the cooldown period before the player can use the audio again, suggesting that the feature was likely implemented, although it was just concealed behind the dots for the screenshots. Night counter and time. In the Steam screenshots before the game's release, the night counter and the time are completely absent. Five Nights at Freddy's 4. It actually has some really interesting and cool bits of cut content. Hanging Nightmare Mangle. Now this one I find pretty cool. In its teaser for the Halloween update of Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Nightmare Mangle is shown to be capable of hanging from the ceiling. Similar to its original counterpart, it also sports many wires hanging off its body, like the original Mangle does. However, neither of these are ever shown in-game. Old jump scare noise. As demonstrated by Nighttime Bonnie's jump scare from the trailer, this early jump scare sound effect was faintly different. The first part uses a different sound sample, which was louder and almost animal-like. However, the other half still uses the edited version of the first game's X-Scream audio samples, like in the final. Have a listen. The demo leftovers. Similar to the 3 previous games, some leftovers, such as the unique completion screen of a Nightmare Fredbear's eyes from the demo, exist in the full version files. Personally, I think that looks kinda creepy. Unlocked chest ending. An unused ending event was meant to be displayed after beating the 2020-2020 mode. The ending remains identical to the chest ending as seen when completing Nightmare, except that the player was able to remove the locks but still cannot open the chest. But this is something I will talk about later on in the Five Nights at Freddy's World section. Pre-release cut content. Nightmare Foxy's tongue. In Nightmare Foxy's teaser, he is shown to have a long metallic tongue. His tongue was never revealed in-game, aside from his appearance in the main menu screen and some of his merchandise renders, such as the Hot Topic t-shirt. Scott Cawthon, during the franchise's 4th anniversary, revealed in his interview with Darko that he removed the tongue from Nightmare Foxy's design because he felt it was not scary enough. Chapter text and animated star. An unused chapter text label in pixelated font was supposedly intended to be used at the end of the night minigames as chapters, and an animated star which was fully animated and flashing was meant to be used somewhere in the game. Its purpose is clearly unknown, but it could be an earlier version of the in-game star achievement. Nightmare Freddy's mobile screen. From the mobile port's first original version, there was a pre-menu screen displaying Nightmare Freddy's image, which was actually a render used for the game's image cover. It was removed when the game is implemented with the Remasters Update patch by the Click team. Five Nights at Freddy's World. Now this is where things start to get really interesting, as there's quite a fair bit of cut content in this section, and half of the cut content was never used in the game, but can still be found within the game's files. The Slow Start Enemies chip. Before Five Nights at Freddy's World was released, there was a chip named Slow Start Enemies. Unusually, the colon is missing from the chip's depicted name. The Slow Start chip would have likely delayed the enemies from attacking first at the start of each battle, but we already had the Quick Start Party chip, which meant you went first anyway, so it made that chip redundant, hence why they removed it. Ice Cave. Now, there is no Ice Cave area in Five Nights at Freddy's World, despite ScottGames.com originally having a preview of the soundtrack. It may have been replaced by Dustin Fields, a similar cold-themed area, but they developed an entire soundtrack for it. Have a listen. Dialogue Bad Influence. In the Foxy Fighters minigame of Update 1.20, JJ has an unused voice clip including a swear that would probably play after the nighttime Chica's plane is shot down. It features her saying, "Now I'm going to kick your ass!"
Wait, what? I can't see that in the game.
This voice line was likely unused due to it being inappropriate and containing profanity, unsuited for players, but I find that extremely insane because the entire game is focused on killing and little kids being stuffed in animatronic objects. Pre-release cut content, Adventure Animatronics. As Five Nights at Freddy's World was announced, Scott Cawthon called the characters Adventure Animatronics. The term wasn't used in game, however the copyrights have the phrase Adventure versions, and these were the enemies that were removed. Unnamed Robot Bay. In the early photos and trailer of the game, there was a robot bay similar in appearance to a prototype. It could have been a counterpart or an early design of said enemy. The old design looks similar to the prototype used in Five Nights at Freddy's World Halloween Edition. Golden Mech Crab. In the first trailer, there appears to be a mech crab type enemy, but with his shell painted gold. This enemy was never used in the game. This enemy could be Mech Crab's early designs. The hidden ending text. In all different endings, this text is hidden actually in the code, and this is what it says. Well, congratulations, you beat a fictional monster from a fictional game. Bravo, big deal. There's also an unused bit of dialogue that was supposed to appear after 8-bit Fredbear tells the player to find a clock for the first time. It technically is used, however, due to an error in the programming, the game instead automatically brings the player to the loading screen when it appears, since it's the last string of text instead of adding additional null string. The opened box. Now this is what I talked about earlier in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, where there was an ending but the box actually had the locks taken off of it. This is found in the game's files and there is no way to trigger it, and the box appears to have nothing inside of it. It was found in the first Glitch World files, and it may have been intended for opening chests in the original 3D overworld. But it also may be simply that Scott Cawthon tricked players into thinking the mystery of the box is revealed in the game somewhere. You know what he's like, guys. Shadow Freddy with Pizza Wheel 2. In one of the teaser screenshots on IndieDB, Shadow Freddy can be seen with the Pizza Wheel 2 attack. This was changed to the Escape Key attack in the final version, and we also see a diagonally walking Freddy sprite, although technically Freddy can now walk diagonally in the update 1.20, and for some unknown and very strange reason, they never reused that sprite which they had in the game files. Simply bizarre. Unused sprite and text. Now there are a few of these, so I'm going to quickly gloss over them so we can move on to the next section. Early Brow Boy sprite. In the game's files, it appears to be a ball boy with the colour and face of a brow boy. There's also a swimming turtle sprite which exists hidden in the game's files, as well as an alternate cupcake file. It is programmed to stop animating after the cupcake bobs down once. There's also a star sprite and a party creation graphic that was used for the character selection menu in the first early versions, as well as a strength number in the character select menu, and is not shown to be used in the game at all. Five Nights at Freddy's Sister location. This section is really interesting and actually features an unused minigame cutscene, which we'll talk about later. Shocked Ballora. Found in the game's files, there's an unused image of Ballora receiving a shock within the primary control module location, with her exoskeleton face exposed. This image was meant to be displayed when activating the controlled shock keypad. Circus Baby image. An unused small image of a red-tinted circus baby with the pigtails obscured or missing. This is found in the game's code and was originally used as part of an early game over screen. Early map screen. An unused position map would have been overlaid while in the vents, primary control module and circus control, as you can see from these screens here, but this was eventually cut from the final release. Unused female computer voice lines. In the game's code, we can find two unused female computer voice clips. The first one titled Glass Pressure.
Glass pressure trigger. Please do not push against the glass.
This was obviously a warning for the player not to push against the circus gallery's window, and we also have another one entitled Technical Control.
Motion trigger. Technician control.
Funtime Freddy's unused voice lines. Now this one's extremely interesting. Funtime Freddy has a load of voice lines that were unused for the game as revealed from MatPat's livestream video with Kellen Goff. Before the livestream, however, Kellen Goff refused to show Funtime Freddy's unused dialogue lines without Scott Cawthon's permission. He also revealed in that livestream that Funtime Freddy was once intended to have a German accent. There are so many voice lines, but I'll pick out a standout few.
Come closer, I'll sing a song for you. This is my friend Bon Bon. Say hi, Bon Bon. Oh, birthday boy. Come out wherever you are. You sure? Okay, let's go get him in 3, 2, 1.
The 8th minigame cutscene. The Custom Night's 8th End of Night minigame cutscene can be viewed in ClickTeam's Fusion engine. Although not necessarily unused, it can also be seen through a glitch. The cutscene was exactly like the first cutscene, only the neighbours look more disturbed. It's interesting as this was completely unused in the final release. One of my favourites, Bon Bon in the vents. Bon Bon is shown crawling through the vents in the first teaser trailer for Sister Location's custom night update, but he never ever does so in the game. I absolutely love this screen and find it extraordinarily creepy. And not only that, in the 4th teaser featuring the baby Babs, it seems as though it was originally intended for there to be 7 baby Babs featured. In game, however, there are only ever 2 baby Babs at most at any given time. Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night. Now, there isn't a whole lot of cut content here, but there is some really cool ones, especially the Molten Freddy one. Rockstar Chica. There's an unused image of Rockstar Chica on the right side of the office. It is a flipped version from her left side. This was most likely replaced due to her bib being flipped. Unused star. There was an unused star in the files like Sister location. This star was a hint at a custom night for the game, and there was also a set of tape options which were eventually unused in the final game. Ultimate Custom Nights removed animatronics. Adventure Endo 1 along with Candy Cadet were planned characters to be in the game, but were both removed for better alternatives. Scott stated he was including both in-game alternatives, with Candy Cadet making an appearance as a prop, although Adventure Endo 1 never made an appearance in-game even though it was promised by Scott. Molten Freddy blueprint. There's an unused blueprint for Molten Freddy, presumably for an insanity ending that reveals Molten Freddy's components and priority. As you can see here, what is really interesting is the fact that it says Molten Freddy has the most remnant of any animatronic. Bonnet boop and unused desk. As you can see here, there's some unused bonnet frames for when the player boops her on the nose. These were never used in the game. There's also an unused desk image that, if zoomed in, features brighter lighting and fixed eyebrows on Freddy's plush. Five Nights at Freddy's, Help Wanted. Now, there is a lot of cut content here, including real-life pictures of Showbiz Pizza, Leftover Glitch Trap. Inside the game's files are a leftover and untextured model for Springtrap. Said model is labelled Glitch Trap. It has no physical differences between it and Springtrap. It may be indeed possible that this was supposed to be the original Glitch Trap, as it is the original origin of the Glitch Trap name, but this is uncertain. Multiplayer mode. There are several files placed in a folder called Multiplayer. The folder contains files named Character Info Table, Multiplayer Game Mode, and so on. This suggests that multiplayer mode was planned, although it was uncertain if it was either entirely scrapped or planned for a future update or DLC. We also see a scanned Five Nights at Freddy's 2 map, which shows the path that the withered animatronics will take. Why this is in the game files, I will never know. Pre-release cut content, wrong coloured Nightmare Freddy. In the first trailer and one of the screenshots before the game's official release, Nightmare Freddy's model seems to have textures resembling Nightmare Freddy. Lacking his buttons, this was fixed later on during the development. Spring Bonnie. In a few promotional images for the game, Spring Bonnie is shown as part of the animatronic amalgamation. The original Spring Bonnie doesn't appear in-game, however, though, and the Spring Bonnie image in the teaser was found to have been made by fan game developer Kane Carter. Curse of Dreadbear DLC, Dreadbear in Spooky Mansion Hallway. From a few screenshots of the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, Dreadbear was shown appearing in Spooky Mansion's hallway segment, but obviously never made it in the game. Original Showbiz Pizza images. A slideshow of Showbiz Pizza animatronic and endoskeleton photos are revealed in the prize counter's television screen after pressing the red button from the exotic Butters basket. As seen in some YouTubers' early access gameplay videos, the photos are taken by Aaron Fetcher. One of the photos labelled Hidden Image 9 was used as one of many black and white screenshots contained within the source code for the Five Nights at Freddy's VR teaser. Whew, that was a mouthful. However, Scott removed these images from the game's final release due to gamers and fans comparing the images to actual Showbiz Pizza photos. All of the images can still be found in the game files though. Spring Bonnie. This is an unused texture that was apparently meant for Spring Bonnie. This exists in the game's files, although why it looks like this is totally unknown to me. Backlight animatronics. Unused models for the backlight variants of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. It is assumed that 4 original animatronics in the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience will be reskinned when enabling the Nightmare mode. Although 3 animatronics are completely finished, Backlight Foxy's full texture, apart from the iris, is unimplemented. There's also a Freddles animation which has gone unused for some reason, as if it's going under the bed. It's almost as if Freddles were planned to appear in the Night Terrors mode. There is a ton of different texts and textures and maps all within the files. I'm not going to go over every single one because there is so many, although I will pick out an old cupcake texture for Chica's cupcake. As you can see here is purple coloured frosting, and the iris textures are taken from the Funtime animatronics. Toy Proxy. A small roundish model can be found in the game's files. The Toy Proxy is missing all textures and is a simple doll-like figure. It was most likely used as a placeholder for the plush trap section, as his animations are matching this section, including one for jumping off the chair. There's also an alternative version called Big Toy Proxy, which again is probably the same thing, a placeholder. Five Nights at Freddy's Special Delivery. This was an interesting game featuring Five Nights at Freddy's for your mobile on augmented reality. And within the game's files, there's loads of FAS facts which are intended for lore, as well as a ton of unused emails, again all focusing on the lore and tying into Security Breach. Now I won't be able to cover every single one of these because there's so many, but you can check them out in the description. Additionally, within the game's files added in 2020, multiple images and information was found for a VIP service. It's likely this would be similar to a battle pass, although this feature was never added in because of delivery events and bug fixes for the game. Plushtrap's prototype gameplay. In the game files for special delivery upon its first release, an earlier version of Plushtrap's plush suit icon was found. When Plushtrap finally gets added after almost a year during his long absence, this plush suit icon version was still scrapped. Despite his old icon being scrapped after he was released, the icon can still be seen in one of the first screenshots. Early HUD images and prize crates. The remnant icon image in the non-animatronic mode was originally a swirl, as seen in the sneak peek screenshots, along with the flashlight also having an on-off caption, which has also been removed. And the prize crates. Before adding balloons as a reward system, it was shown that prizes were going to be sent to the player in FAS crates. These crates were coloured bronze, silver and gold, with gold getting the best prizes and FAS coins. Unimplemented animatronics. There were two animatronics in this game which were completely unimplemented, Lefty and Easter Chica. While Lefty's CPU icon asset exists, his full texture map is grouped in Magician Mangle's texture. His old model and animations from 2019 are also found. We also have Easter Chica in the files of the game, and they have been sitting there since 2020 with no information other than it possibly being related to the Easter 2020 event. Unused shop assets. The assets you can see on screen now were in the game upon its first release, but from an unknown update patch they were ultimately removed. As well as Shamrock Freddy's pre-updated assets, these were later revamped for the launch of the first Blast from the Past delivery event. Now before we get into Security Breach, there are technically 3 spin-off games: Freddy in Space 2, Fury's Rage, and Five Nights at Freddy's U-Toes. But to be honest, the unused content is not all that memorable, so I'm not really going to cover it because I feel it's not as memorable as all the other stuff we've covered, and we've got Security Breach coming up. So with that out of the way, let's get into Security Breach. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is a 2021 first-person survival horror video game developed by Steelwood Studios and published by Scott Games. Overall, it was a massive shift in what the fan base is used to, moving to a fully explorable 3D world, as before it was merely just 2D or via the use of cameras. And this has arguably the most cut content of all games, even complete game modes, removed characters, loads of secrets and lore, so you are not going to want to miss any of this. Bonnie Bowl's old design. Seen in a trailer for Security Breach, there was regular staff bots being used in the ice cream parlour before being replaced with attendant staff bots in the final version. Along with this, in the files, there was also a window that would overlook Roxy Raceway. It was presumed this was cut due to technical issues. Burntrap's bigger role. Originally, Burntrap was to be given a bigger role. In the files, he has unused data chase sequence as if he was meant to have a second fight stage after the monitor office fight. He had a death animation, which you can see here. He also has a series of unused audio sounds ranging from chain noises to laughter. Two of his laughters actually can be heard in-game. And just before we move on to the pre-release cut content, there's a HAL 9000 texture in the game's files. Now if you don't know, HAL 9000 is from the movie 2001 A Space Odyssey. It is unknown why this was made or even cut from the files. Cut trailer voice lines. Vanny, Glamrock Freddy, Roxanne and Vanessa and 1 to 2 unknown characters have voice lines that were only heard in the trailers. The unknown characters were confirmed to be voiced by Matthew Curtis. We have the first trailer, which Vanny basically goes on about her temper being a glitch.
Gregory, I may have lost my temper earlier, but it was just a glitch. It won't happen again.
We have a NVIDIA showcase, which doesn't really tell us too much, and then we have the second trailer, which I believe is the most interesting, because that's where we have this unknown character, and the unknown character is talking to obviously someone in the Pizzaplex, and they say,
"When I first found you, you were nothing. You were small, pathetic, but now you are more. Are you ready?"
Then Vanessa speaks, then the unknown entity speaks again.
Gregory, we can get you out of here. You and me together. They won't stop hunting you. None of them will stop hunting you. We have to get you out by morning.
I say, you will bring me what I want, and if you fail me, then you will, both of you, burn!
There's also one more bit, a delivery staff bot. From the tech demo trailer, there was another staff bot variant wearing a sombrero and would have been delivering meals in the El Chips restaurant. Unused subtitles and dialogue. Now this section is really interesting for a lore perspective. Alternate subtitle strings reveal that there are multiple lines of dialogue that were changed in order to remove direct mention of injury, blood, or death. These files were recovered from the PS4 pre-release build of the game. There's a subtitle from Glamrock Freddy saying he's detecting blood, are you injured? But they changed this to say, I feel you are broken. Initially the blood would imply that Gregory is human, but they may have changed that to imply that Gregory is indeed some type of animatronic. The same thing happens here. Your arm is cut badly, I will take you to a first aid station, is replaced with, no, I feel that something is wrong, I'm taking you to the first aid station. Removing that element of blood or cuts or any type of indication that Gregory would bleed as a human being. Or it could be to the fact that they don't want to mention any type of blood and want to keep the ratings down, who knows. Character gallery. This would allow the players to view the models of several characters and some of the arcade cabinets. It was removed in the February 2022 update. Unused entities. Frozen Glamrock Endo. A frozen variant of the Glamrock Endo is located in the files. Although some body parts were found in-game, the complete model goes unused except for parts of it found inside a box in the first security office. There's also an unused side quest related to this Endo, as suggested by the side dialogue between Gregory and Glamrock Freddy, which you can see on screen with the dialogue now. She's demanding her eyes be returned to her from Gregory as she counts down for the race. Although Freddy's, Gregory's and Vanessa's definitely have some substance to them, and I will go over them now. Glamrock Freddy's unused voice lines. Glamrock Freddy has additional unused dialogue for that past models of Freddy were dangerous, but he himself isn't.
I hear what some guests say about me. Bad things happened in the past. But that was not me. Those were older models. Flawed. I would never hurt anyone. You know that, right?
This was definitely foreshadowing for the Ruin DLC, where we see a prototype Freddy attack the player Cassie. Freddy also has unused dialogue for recognizing Gregory from somewhere.
Gregory, I know why you are not in the customer database. I remember you from the...
and other dialogue related to the in-game endings, such as him stating his finger lighter is actually for candles and creme brulee.
My finger doubles as a lighter, you know, for birthday candles, and creme brulee.
One voice line also lets him reveal that the giant tanks in the basement area are actually bases containing fizzy fats.
Well done. You are near the fizzy fast syrup vats. You should be able to find your way to the main kitchen from here.
In addition to these voice lines, Freddy also has unused subtitles that show him sounding hurt when talking to Gregory, with the possibility that these could have been from a moment when Freddy became an enemy later on, as well as subtitles trying to tell Chica, Roxy and Monty to resist Vanny's control.
Chica, Roxy, Monty, do not listen. Resist her, please. You do not want to do this.
Gregory cut voice lines. Now before we get into Vanessa and Vanny's cut content, which is absolutely huge, Gregory also has his own set of cut dialogue. One of which is where he exclaims about his arm being injured and perhaps how he injured it.
Oh, my arm! Don't worry about it. It's just a scratch from the vent, I'm fine.
There's also an unused voice line of him crying and dialogue relating to going after Roxy.
Alright, Roxy, here I come!
There's also dialogue of scenes from the ending, such as finding Princess Quest 3, shouting to disassemble Vanny, and saying something ironic like,
Are you having fun yet?
Vanessa. The majority of Vanessa's audio is unused, and there's so much of it, including dialogue where she hopes she can find Gregory before something bad happens to him, suggesting she has to struggle to save the children in the past.
I can find him. It won't be like the last one.
And she also at one point calls directly to Roxy, Monty and Chica.
Monty, Roxy, Chica, report.
Most of the unused dialogue would have matched her portrayal in the PS5 trailer compared to her more aggressive dialogue in the final release. Most of her unused audio likely would have played in a sequence where she became a playable character. Also, in the only section where you can count Vanny as an enemy in Rockstar Row, if you spawn in the phase cam or phaser blaster and use them on her, it reveals she can have a stunned animation for it. But obviously Gregory cannot obtain these items until far much later on, long after this encounter is past. Vanny herself has a few unused voice lines such as a villainous laugh and a voice line of her saying,
I have the second key.
Which is most likely scrapped in early development due to the different voice actor. Unused minigame section, Bonnie Bowl minigame. A Bare Bones bowling minigame can be found in Bonnie Bowl with very little polished features, suggesting it was cut in early development. It was cut along with the early Bonnie Bowl in the February 2022 update. Obviously we later see Bonnie Bowl in the Ruin DLC, which I'll be talking about later on. Chica's Feeding Frenzy, a minigame hinted at in-game via a duffel bag. The arcade cabinet can even be found in Roxy Raceway. However, it's not playable in-game. Using hacking to access it reveals a minigame where Glamrock Chica shoots projectiles at food items. The minigame appears to be very unpolished and is ultimately removed in the February 2022 update, only to return in Ruin, where it was finally implemented in-game for the first time and massively refined. Roxy Raceway minigame mission. There was a minigame mission that would trigger in Roxy Raceway after placing the head into the driver assist bot. This minigame would have been similar to the Pizza Bot's Pizza Bake minigame, but Gregory would be driving around the racetrack. Ultimately though, in the game's initial release, the minigame was not used and instead skips to Roxy's decommission cutscene. Multiple assets relating to this mission were found in the game's files, coding scripts, UI graphics, and even dialogue from the driver assist bot. Through hacking, it is possible to spawn the cart and drive around the Pizzaplex, and if it strikes an enemy animatronic, they are shown ragdolling, though the jump scare still happens. Expanded Monty Golf Arcade Machine. An extended version of Monty Golf Arcade Machine includes double the golf holes. It appears in a better state than the currently released version of the minigame. The unused holes that didn't appear in the game, however, are now present in the DLC Ruin. Unused mechanic Vanny Meter. Vanny, as in the game's main antagonist, was intended to be much more of an active enemy. For now, this feature can only be used with the debug tool. Ray McCaffrey said that there was plans to add this feature back in the future update patches, but as Steelwall has come out and said this game's complete and we've had the Ruin DLC, this seems unlikely. Fans though have since discovered that if Vanessa is actually active and the meter is on, when this meter fills up, she will become Vanny, thus fueling the fire that obviously Vanessa is Vanny, but I'm sure we already know that anyway. Unused features, extra menu. An unused extra menu similar to that in past games can be found, containing tabs for survival mode, mini-games, office games, character gallery, DLC and credits. The survival mode is a mode of gameplay where difficulty, hour length and the number of lives Gregory has can be adjusted. The security levels of various rooms in the game are raised higher and the party bots are placed around every major area of the facility, forcing Gregory to search for party passes. Many out of order doors also become accessible in this game mode, including one connecting Vanny's hideout in Phaser Blast to the back room in Bonnie Bowl. Vanessa spawns at around 12:10 AM and starts roaming around to look for Gregory and becomes Vanny if the Vanny meter fills. At 12:50 AM, the daycare attendant spawns to enforce the time limit, but as the mode is unused, prize boxes, Glamrock Freddy and the recharge stations cannot be interacted with, so it will always kill the player at 1 AM. Gregory spawns in the first office at the start of the game but cannot move unless a cheat is enabled to let him move. Interestingly, the February 2022 update fixed survival mode to let Gregory move normally, but all other aspects are still unusable. Unused collectibles. There's a huge string of unused inventory collectibles in the entire game files with placeholder graphics for their icons. I will not have time to go through every single one because there's so many, but I'll pick out a stand few. We have Helpy, which is possibly a toy based on Helpy, given as a quest item, the purpose is unknown. There's also a variant called Nightmare Helpy, again the purpose is unknown. A string of clothing placeholder items and a trophy which says Phaser Tag Champions Badge, possibly a reward item for completing the Phaser Blast tag game. Unused locations, Utilidors. Several hallways can be found in the files that would allow the player to travel between areas of the Mega Pizzaplex. These utility doors were accessible through the currently unused level 10 security doors. These doors would connect the Rockstar Road to Roxy Raceway, a door between Roxy Raceway and Phaser Blast, and a door from the Superstar Daycare to Monty Gators Golf. However, despite not being in the game, the utility doors appear in the Tales from the Pizzaplex story, Bobby Bots Part 1. There's also an unused room in Fazzacade which looks like a beehive, and a hallway seen in the second trailer for Security Breach. L Chips was originally going to be connected to the arcade. Presumably due to technical issues, this was scrapped because obviously that area now acts as a loading screen. All the unused staff bots. There are several staff bots which we do not see at all in the game and were removed for unknown reasons. This is the Anthropomorphic Testing Device staff bot, the Nanny staff bot, Server staff bot, Mime staff bot, Golf Player staff bot, and the Sales bot. For whatever reason, they never decided to use these in-game. Five Nights at Freddy's Ruin DLC. Now, before we get into the main narrative, I'd just like to thank everyone who's watched all the way up until this point. You really are amazing. And if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe because there'll be plenty more Five Nights at Freddy's content coming up as we gear for the movie's release, as well as a potential ending which could completely change the Ruin DLC. So let's jump into the final cut content in Ruin. Unused rabbit model. There's an unused rabbit animatronic found in the game's files. It is completely textured and highly detailed. It's not clear what this animatronic's purpose is or why it was cut, but it's most likely the fact that it was an early design of the AR bunny we see in the Ruin DLC. And the biggest giveaway is the fact that they both share the same name. Nevertheless, I still find this one extremely creepy. Candy Cadet unused voice line. We all see Candy Cadet towards the end of the Ruin DLC, and he tells you a story providing you have enough coins. But there is a piece of dialogue which is found in the game's files which is completely unused. Have a listen.
Now I will tell you a story about a mother and her little boy who lived alone in a cabin in the dark woods. There was a monster in the woods, but the mother caught it and kept it locked in the basement. About a little boy who lived near the dark woods. He was told never to go into the woods because there were wild animals.
This is slightly different as he refers to wild animals as opposed to a monster being in the woods. Unused Cassie lines. There's a whole host of alternate lines in the game's files, but this one is completely unused, and it is where Cassie sees Roxy for the first time.
You're always my favorite.
Unused audio. In the VR AR tube between Bonnie Bowl and Phaser Blast, there's a set of unused audio we can hear from Roxanna Wolf and Freddy. It is technically used, although parts of it are cut off because of the transition, but I will play them for you now.
Happy Fazbear birthday, pizza, games and cakes. Open all your presents until your tummy aches. You are 1 year older on your special day. When this song is over, you'll be on your way.
Happy Fazbear birthday, pizza, games and cakes. Open all your presents until your tummy aches. You are 1 year older on your special day, and when this song is over, you'll be on your way.
This is actually a reference to Abdul Cisse, who made a viral TikTok video with this song, where he basically ha-has the same intro. In my eyes, this is a very cool Easter egg, especially as it's in an unused file. There's also 2 very short voice lines from Roxy and Freddy. It's presumably for a party, saying they've got a 10-minute warning before they have to leave.
This is your 10-minute warning. The next party needs to set up.
This is your 10-minute warning. The next party needs to set up.
Removed minigames. In the game's files, there's reference to bowling gameplay as a potential minigame, and even has a leftover map where this could take place. There's only a select few items in there, but one, interestingly enough, is Bonnie's torso. Alternate ending voice line. This is arguably one of the most important voice lines we ever get to hear in any of the games. Again, this is found in the game's files, and it's Gregory talking to Cassie as she leaves the Pizzaplex. Have a listen.
It's not your fault. I know you did it for me. To save me. But make sure it doesn't follow you.
This implies that Cassie was originally supposed to sneak away from the mimic rather than die at the hands of Gregory in the elevator. This is extremely important, I believe, for the game's lore. Soundtrack, Are You There? There's a track in the game's files which has kind of like a spacey theme to it, which could have been intended to be used in the Phaser Blast area. Have a quick listen. This This was completely unused and is only found in the game's files. There's also another OST which is completely unused, and it's entitled I Remember, which could be a reference to the scene where obviously you see Roxy for the first time and you have to fully decommission her, as this piece is quite sad. Hold back them tears as you have a listen. Unused Vanny graphic. This graphic would obviously have been used to show the players that they couldn't use the Vanny mask in certain areas. For unknown reasons it was cut and they decided to go with the one we see in the game. There's also leftover artwork, as you can see here, which is a Ruins poster. Presumably this would showcase the game's art during an expo or demo text phase for the main menu. And in this version we still have the survivor mode files left over, and it can still be accessed in the game's files. Is this a possible hint to the survivors mode return? We will never know. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button and subscribe, because there's plenty more content like this coming up on the channel, so hit it right now. I'd like to thank everyone who subscribed before I released this video. Your name is on the screen now, and thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Twisted Animatronic out.